Okay, perfect. So thank you everyone for coming today to real estate investing. We have three of our top agents, Jeffrey Liriano, Robin Renahan, and David Maritroso, who all personally currently invest in real estate and have either started recently a portfolio or who have had a portfolio for a while. Everything from either the single families, multi-families, all the way to Airbnb. So I thought, why would we ask our current agents here who do this at a high level and ask them questions about how they got started, what money did they use, who helped them achieve those goals. So before we do, I would like to start with Jeffrey, and I just want you to introduce yourself and say how long that you've been in real estate and currently how many investment properties are you working with that you physically own or that you have closing in the future because they're already under agreement.
All right. So my name is Jeffrey Liriano. I've been in real estate for 4 years now. And I started investing in real estate last year in May 30th. It was when I bought my first property. And right now I own 12 units.
Perfect. Now the 12 units, just to be defined,
How many doors?
are they individuals?
12 doors. 12 doors. 12 doors.
So like couple, 2 families, 3 families, or 12 units?
So I have four family, 2-3 families, and a 2 family.
Okay, perfect. Robin.
I'm Robin Renahan, and I've been in real estate full time since 2014. Yep, and I have 3 properties. I have 2 condos and an Airbnb at Salisbury Beach. And I bought the first condo probably 2014.
Okay, perfect.
Dave, I just got into real estate 6 months ago.
Doing great.
Yeah, I have 2. I have 2 properties. I have a 4 family and I have a 3 family that we're currently about to close on this month.
Perfect. Okay, so let's start with Robin. When you sought out for your first investment property, were you specifically looking for it for the Airbnb process, or what motivated you for the first purchase?
My Airbnb is the last one I bought. So my first one, it was a townhouse, but I actually was living in it. So I sold my house. I had a condo that I was living in. Then I moved out of the condo and I thought, I wasn't looking to become a real estate investor. I was thinking I might not want to sell this because I may want to move back into it eventually or whatever. So I kept it and I said, I'll rent it for like a year or 2. And then as I was in real estate longer, I'm like, why would I ever sell it? So it's a good townhouse, like in a really desirable area. So it's appreciated a lot, like double. And so it was sort of by accident that I moved out, kept it, and then later bought another one. And then got the Airbnb later.
Okay, so when you did that and you got your second one, did you take any capital out of your investment one, or did you keep that separate and it built equity and you just used cash or resources from elsewhere?
So I was very lucky because I had some resources through my dad getting involved in this with me. So I didn't take anything out of my first one, and then my dad was able to pay cash for the second one, and so I kind of have a loan with him.
Okay,
So he put it up, so I didn't have to get any.
so your dad does personal financing for all of you
He
interested.
actually is interested.
Can you
and
share
there
his
could be,
phone
there could
number
be
with
some
us?
loan opportunities.
You're right.
Not just through me.
Right, I mean, the percentage might be high up in the
Depends, yeah.
15% from
And if you don't pay,
1989.
there could be some pain involved, but other than that.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
couple of guys.
Yeah. All right, Jeffrey, so when did you buy your first investment?
May 30th last year,
Wow, okay, so just a year ago.
a year ago.
And what motivated you to start the investment process?
Real estate. So like I got into real estate and I started learning, how the real estate world works as an agent. But then I saw that as an investor, there's a huge potential over there that as an agent, you have a first dibs. You have the advantage of getting some of those deals before they hit the market or, you know, another agent has it. So I read the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And I just wanted to put it in practice. So I started with a 4-family. I did that with a conventional loan, 5% down, live in one unit, rent the others, then move out, 3-family. Then I came across, I have other 3-family with an FHA. But then I came across a listing that it was a property that was at least $200,000 below market, and I knew it for a fact. And I put an offer, and they accepted it. So I went conventional investment, 25% down on that one. So I was able to buy a 3-family for $500,000 and appraised at $700,000. So instant, 200.
So to the
that's
mistake
nice.
of a real estate agent potentially
Yeah,
listing
yeah,
a
yeah.
property that was
Yeah,
very under market.
it was one of those agents that sell a house every moon eclipse or something like that.
So let's go back for a second, because one of the things that I heard Jeffrey say is the first property that he ever purchased was not a single family for his family. So he bought a 3-family, a 4-family, lived in it. And then from living in it and with the rent of the other floors carrying it, saved up enough money to be able to leave this property at some point to go to his next property, but also have some cash flow and being in real estate, plus the relationships to continue down with the portfolios.
So my 4-family, I chased it for a year. I chased that owner.
Okay.
I chased him for a whole full year, and then he sold to me. Remember I went to your office.
Oh, no, I remember. I remember.
Then a year later, I bought a 3-family, same thing, living in it, renting the other space. Well, then my 3 and 2, I did buy it as an investment. I had 25% down on both of those.
Okay.
On the 3-family and the 2-family, it was 25% down.
And before we move to David, I do want to just say a disclosure that when Jeffrey talks about current deals, whether he's listing it or other agents are listing it within our market center or in the industry, a seller wants what a seller wants. And as long as the seller makes a decision in full disclosure that if they're looking for 500 and minus open houses and marketing, and they maybe there's a term and condition that they get to stay an extra 6 months or something, and it's easy for them, they'll take the 500 versus potentially putting it on the market, driving numbers, because that's what the seller wants. And I want to make sure whoever's listening to the Zoom and people in here that legally, again, it's always up to a seller. And if the seller chooses that path where they don't want to expose it, and maybe he wants to buy it, or we're talking about it at an office meeting and we're coming soon and we're getting ready to go through that journey, and somebody says, hey, can I check that out for personal reasons, and we make it happen, we can do that as long as the seller understands what
And that's a tough one.
leaving on the table.
That's a tough one.
It
Like,
is.
negotiating with the seller straight. Like the seller will understand when you're the agent, but when you're trying to buy it, the everything becomes very difficult. Like
Right.
I was trying to buy a 3-family, and it became difficult because the communication was not there. I tried to talk to the attorney, nothing, and ended up going down the drain.
And it can be when you're personally purchasing something that you're going for a listing appointment on as well. Legally, you have to disclose a lot of information, which is not this class or this seminar today. But I'm just disclosing that Jeffrey is 100% right. And it can be a very slippery slope,
Yeah.
whether it's your own single family or an investment property. So,
What I like to do and what I did in the past too, so that didn't happen. I had the conversation with them. When you put the offer, you disclose that you're a real estate agent. And what I do is that I always say, okay, who's your attorney? Let's have your attorney revise this offer. I'll send it to him, sit down with your attorney, go over it. If you make any changes, send it back to me and I'll accept any changes.
right.
That way they're getting their chance of having a professional,
Another licensed legal matter
yeah,
coming
it's gonna
in as a
check.
third party.
and you're in the clear.
I like it. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
David.
What was the question?
All right, so. I know, maybe it's the gingham or the plaid that's throwing you off. I want to relax. This is what we're doing with money. So your first investment property was bought when?
Technically, I bought my townhouse in Village Green in North Andover in 2018. I
Mhm.
never owned real estate before that day.
Mhm.
And I only did that because I couldn't get approved for a 2-family. It was the only thing I could get approved for, and I hated the place where I was renting, so it's time to go. The guy kept jacking up the rent, so I bought my townhouse first. Then after that, last year, it hasn't even been a year, is when we bought the 4-family in North Andover.
Mhm.
That was on the market and nobody bought it. It's nice.
That's a good one.
And the rentals were like 1,700. And I don't know why nobody bought it. The building kind of looked like crap, I guess. It was a big 4-family. Everybody was buying 2 families. So I told my brother, like, hey, I think we could actually get this place. And I think these rents are way below market value,
Mhm.
which they were. We ran into a big problem with the city. We pulled a permit to change a water heater, and the guy came and shut the water down.
Mm.
Gas, shut it down. This building is not livable because there's carbon monoxide going through the chimneys, and people live there for like, I don't know, the last 10 years. So anyway, so we had to put chimney flutes in all the chimneys, and we have 4 of them. And we had to do it in a week, and at the tune of 14 grand.
Mm.
On that building, we put down 20%, and we had a little, like, I didn't own property until 2018, but I was selling, like, making money in real estate before then, so I was just saving. So we put down 20% and a little cushion, and then when they did that, we obviously ended up doing what we have to do, and then now it's making me money. Crazy money.
So let's talk about making money. So
Sure.
here are the backstories of maybe how you decided to purchase or when you decided to purchase it. So when you're investing in like the 4-family that you're talking about, a lot of people are nervous to bite off more than they can chew. They feel as though that maybe a 2-family is more manageable, not just financial, but cost, property management, things like that. So currently for all 3 of you, who takes care of the property management for your properties? Who is responsible? Have you hired somebody? Do you do it yourself? And what does that cost look like, Jeffrey?
So I use a system called Door Loop.
Okay.
It's basically like a CRM. It's like a command, but for property management. So I do automatic payments there, and any repair tickets, people can text direct there. So I have ISAs for my regular real estate business. So what they do is they check it like once a day, or I don't have that many tenants for us to have that many requests, but they'll get like an email if they get any requests. I list there my preferred vendors, my electrician, everybody that is doing work for me. And if anything breaks, they know who to call. They'll call it, coordinate it, and I just write the check to.
Now, is there an is there a process where you have to approve it before,
Yeah.
like, they're
Yeah,
like,
so-
hey,
Yeah, so they send it to me, he'll send me an email and I'll go over it and approve it. I have a gentleman that goes and takes out the trash, cleans the hallways once a week.
approximately how much does that cost? The
I'm paying
platform
him-
plus maybe
I'm
the
paying
settlement?
the guy $20
Okay.
per week,
Okay,
per property. So
Okay.
he goes, takes out the trash, brooms and sweeps and goes.
okay. Now, how much does the platform run you?
$59 a
Okay,
month.
all right. And since having those properties, how much money have you had to put into your properties that were phone calls from tenants in terms of fixing things? In total, just a general.
Not much, because when I bought the 4-family, it was the first one.
Yeah.
I got it for $450,
Mhm.
which was a steal, but it needed a lot of work.
Mhm.
So in work, I put into that property about $150,000 in rehab. So I put 4 new boilers. I, plastered all the walls, new kitchens, new cabinets. Like I did it
So
all.
when you buy this, you live in the bottom, you still have 3.
Mhm.
You're putting 150 in. Where are you getting 150,000?
From real estate sales.
So basically, you're taking your
Sounds
commissions
unreal.
Yeah,
and
my
rolling
commission.
it in.
Yeah, so
Okay,
I rolled it in.
Yeah.
And now the property, I did a HELOC, a home
Yeah.
equity line, the property appraised for $1 million.
Okay.
And I owed $420 on it.
okay,
So I have a good equity on that one. And 1 year.
It's really good.
Yeah, so, and when I bought it, my interest rate was 2.7. I paid 2,400 and I collected rent a little bit over 8,000 from it.
Okay, so these are important numbers, and the reason why I'm gonna go down the line and talk about this is because this is the line at which people decide to either do it or don't, and people get caught up on either it's too big of a project, or maybe it's the numbers, and I really wanna understand with the three of you how you overcame that. I mean, did you know that you were gonna have to put about 150 in that first 4-family?
I do.
So knowing all of that capital and investment, he knew this before he did it. Robin, what about you? When you, like, do you do your property management
I
to
do,
somebody else?
yeah, I do everything myself.
Okay.
You know, I just, if anybody has an issue, they call me, and then I just use the same vendors that I use for the rest of my real estate
Yeah.
business. And sometimes I don't have someone right off the bat. Well, sometimes I have to scramble around and, like, you
Put
know,
it
the
to
way you
Will
do
Bond.
anything is the way you do everything, right? So I just make it all work somehow. And
Okay.
you know, I only have 3 different doors, you know,
Right, right.
I won't buy anything that needs a lot of work. So
Okay.
even, I mean, every day I'm sort of kind of halfway searching for something else to buy. And I because I don't have people to do rehab cheaply, so I don't buy anything that's not pretty much updated. So
Okay,
I just do like paint and flooring, maybe buy some appliances, call it a day.
Okay.
So I don't get a lot of, I've been really lucky. I really haven't had a lot of repairs, but this year I've had the most. And
Okay.
I do have a separate account for every property, and there's usually enough money in the account to cover any repairs. So far, it's all, you know, the properties are appreciating, they're all paying for themselves. I have long-term tenants in the 2 that aren't Airbnbs.
Mhm.
So everything's, you know, for me, this is more of a retirement plan, so get a few more, as long as everything's appreciating, everything's paying for itself, and make a little bit of money, let those accounts grow. And
When you say a little bit of money, approximately your return of investment, assuming there's no major projects that you're doing that year, and you're
Mhm.
putting maybe 20-30% back into the business or back into the property, you're holding it for resources, what does it look like when you?
Well, it's kind of funny because I was sitting down with my accountant, and thank God I now have a very good accountant. So he actually knows what percentage I'm making. And I have a thing where I don't remember numbers, so I don't know. I just know that everything's paying for itself, everything's working out fine,
Mhm.
and I'm terrible with my numbers, and that's just the way it is.
So I'm glad that she's saying that,
Just being
and
honest.
you have, if you are not good with numbers, to be honest, if you're not, that is why either you need to use outside resources, like your financing person, or somebody that you trust at a bank, and you should be running certain numbers on the property, because you don't want to get into a problem, which nobody has had, where you're buying a property and the rents cannot be raised, and it's a heightened market, which we're going to talk about as our second portion, and whether or not it's a great time to actually buy a multifamily right now, based on what the rents are currently, and that there's a 30% up margin happening right now with rents, if you don't know, and what that looks like. So your return of investment so far, I mean, is it $10,000-$20,000 a year per property that?
I would say with the Airbnb, it's probably 10 or 15,000, but this year, you know, I'm still kind of improving it. I'm very picky about that one, so
Mhm.
I tend to put a lot more money back in.
So let's assume 10 for each one, so 30,000 of return of investment. We'll call it passive income, 30,000. Passive income, 30,000 for minimal work or smart work, because you took on what you're capable of, and that's how she likes it. So David, let's talk about yours.
Ours brings in now probably over 100, and probably 60 of that goes towards the mortgage.
Okay, so your return is about 40,000 passive income.
Yeah, like a little bit more than 50.
Okay, now do you manage your own property as well?
Yeah, so we have a property management company outside of this real estate thing, and
This thing that we call real estate. Side hustle, side hustle.
Yeah, this is just a side.
This is the commercial
my
right
Monday
now,
to
where you can skip
Friday.
the ad, we have a professional. Go ahead,
So
David.
we have a property management company, and so obviously that makes it easier, and that's how we gained our experience of managing properties. And like having people to call, because we used to have to call them for all our,
I'm gonna hire these guys maybe to,
all of
as
our.
it gets, when I get
other-
some more properties. I'll hire
So
them.
now let's think about what David said, though, because now I want to highlight this.
This thing.
So you had Jeffrey, whose first purchase personally was a 4-family that he lived in and collected return of investment, passive income to build up cash flow to allow him, and continue to do real estate, work in real estate, to allow him that. When we're talking to David for the DNA brothers, they had a property management company first and learned the ins and outs of working with contractors, painters, things. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that was formulated, what that looks like, how that business runs?
Like 4 or 5 years ago, somebody told us to open a property management company. So we were like, yeah, we're not gonna do that, because it's a lot of work. And then we did, and then people just kept hiring us, and it kind of took off on its own. We still pretty much run it as far as, you know, the tenants and stuff, but most of the payments are automated. If there's stuff that needs to be done, like we have so many people, you know, I just did that flip in North Andover, so like I got a bunch of people that I.
You gotta talk about that
Oh, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. I'm
That
gonna
was a
flip.
really good
Continue,
one.
continue.
What else was I saying?
So you said somebody told you to maybe start a property management company. So you
Yeah,
did.
So
and-
we had it, and basically we saw, just like sales in real estate, you get that experience on somebody else's dime, you know,
Mhm.
like I saw how many tenants are like, the turnover rate, say it's 10% or 20, whatever it is, what they complain about, how to deal with people, right? That's
Mhm.
obviously this real estate business as well, but like how to deal with people, how to evict people without like pushing them out the door, you know? So like we figured all that stuff out through our property management company, and all the same stuff applies to our building.
Now, how many clients, outside people other than yourselves, do you have that have hired you as the property
About
manager?
40 units,
So you, 40 units.
yeah.
And so even though that's not what we're gonna be talking about today, because we are gonna go back to the flip, approximately that piece of your business, passive income wise, per year, how much are you making off of that?
I don't even know.
Thank you, Dave.
I'm on a salary.
I wish there was a
Not
camera
that I
looking
do
at my face
matters.
right now, because I was like, ah.
I make money doing this, and besides that, I don't know how much.
I don't even know. It's good. It's a big salary.
So the financial advisor for the DNA brothers is here live, not on camera, so, but 25,000, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so I throw these numbers out there because eventually, you know, 25,000 might seem like a lot to somebody, it might seem a little to somebody. If it seems like a little, and you were talking about 25, and you have 3 properties like Robin, and you're floating at a 75 for now, and we haven't even talked about where the rental market's going, would you like to have 75,000 of passive income coming in and the bill being paid on what you purchased? And that's really the idea. That's the idea of it. David, talk to us about this amazing North Andover flip.
I bought a property for 167, and then I ended up selling it for 275, and I made approximately 90K in 2 months. So that was cool, you know.
But a lot in.
Edgeline?
How much
Yeah.
did you put,
Mhm.
how much did you put in it?
I put in 25,000, a little less than 25 grand.
Now, I'm gonna just
But it's
dig,
nice. I made it really, really nice.
It is, that's why.
I wanna just dig a little bit deeper too, because I think this is about relationships too.
Yeah.
So because David and Arthur started with property management, they built relationships with a lot of landscapers, painters, electricians, things like that. The more business that you give those people, the better your costs can be to negotiate when you need them for what you are, because you're funneling their business. So what might have cost David what cost him about 25,000 on this flip might have cost, say, 30, 35 for somebody else. But the number of 90, even if I subtracted 10 or 15 or even 20, the value on that is still there. And David, to be clear, you're not doing the in work of everything. You're hiring the people and somebody is coming from your property management,
I
which is
put
you
up the
guys.
blinds. That's why it's money. I put up the blinds. That's
Okay.
what
And they were crooked.
That's it,
I do it right. I do it right. But I will say this, just like for anybody listening, to give a real perspective is we didn't spend our money. I don't want anybody thinking like for a second that like I'm asking people to borrow their money to do this flip, because then I probably could not do it. The 20% we put down on our 4-family is not remotely it's like not side cash, but it's not all we had. Then we did the flip and we're now buying another 3-family in Medford, and that's 20%. And like, that's not all my money. So what makes it easier for us to do it is because all those years we saved our money. And now these decisions, it's easy to make money when you have money, of course, where I know I've tried to look at different deals where I had to borrow or like maybe split money with people, and I couldn't make those numbers work in my head. I know like you can make money, but I think you really give yourself a competitive advantage if you just have money in your own bank account.
And if you don't have money, the equity that you have in your home with rates are still obviously way lower than they were when they were 16, 17%. So there are a couple of programs. DCU right now has a really great program for it, where you can take money out of your current home if you have equity in your home to go ahead and put it as the cash or the down payment or contribute to, or the flipping portion, or things, the rehab. So not necessarily do you need to have that sitting in your account. I also want to discuss too with relationship building, and this is getting a little off topic, but it helps with the investment portion. Sometimes when you're the person in the middle of a project, you can join forces with other people. If you're the person finding the homes and finding the value, and you have these 3 individuals and maybe more that might have the financial capital, but you're finding the property, sometimes with the right people, they'll create an LLC where you don't have to come to the table with money, and you might own, say, 10% of the project. If you're the finder of the project. So there are strategies and ways to invest without always coming to the table with either that money that's sitting in your bank account, like you're saying, or you save and you set a goal. And if once you've saved the 100 or the 150, then you go target that and go find that first
If
property.
anybody wants to give me 200 grand, I'll do another.
I'll bet you 10%. I'll invest.
Can we ask my answer to go, or should we?
Yeah, no, that's fine, go ahead.
So. So I'm gonna be like the non-real estate person in the room, going, how do you know when you look at it? Like, you looked at your way underpriced property and went, I got it, what? This is like so obvious. You say, you looked at Edgelawn. So if you're not the real estate agent expert, the way that you 3 are, how do I, as an MCA, look at something and go, that's too good to be true, I have to jump on that?
I got it. So I think that you have to look all the time. We've been looking at real estate for ourselves.
So what was Edgelawn for you? Because I was involved on both sides, I mean, as the MCA on both sides, like, what was it, the price was right, or you realized that you just saw the return on investment could be?
No, I actually didn't think I could make the money I made. I thought I was only gonna make like 15,000, and I didn't plan on this like killer
And was that
sale.
your first flip?
Yeah, that was my first
Okay,
flip.
yeah, I notarized.
But
Yeah,
I
so
know
that's
my
something
brother,
I was on the outside.
I know my brother and I always talk about it, and you have to be in the game. So even if I don't buy a house for 2 years, I've been looking at buying a multifamily as an unqualified buyer for 3 years. So when Same with condos, obviously, I'm in the market, I live in town, I just knew there was a little bit of an opportunity. And it was just small enough for me, but basically the answer is, you gotta look all the time, you know what I mean?
And now, again, just for me,
Yeah.
maybe not a question that can be answered in this room, but like for me, like how do I, okay, so I'm gonna start, like I've been looking.
Yeah.
I actually know Robin because she did sell an investment
Yeah.
property of mine way before we should have.
I knew Kate
however.
before and I didn't even know I knew her.
So now I'm constantly looking again. I
Yeah.
have great equity in my house, I have some cash, I'm
Mhm.
like, I just need, and nothing's hitting me, it's back in the face and going, okay, like that's it. But meanwhile, when I do find something, I'm not prepared. So if I go to a bank or like a lender and I go, okay, I'm ready, like that doesn't just keep floating along with me for 3 years. And again, I'm not nearly the expert that you guys are, or, in the market as much as you guys are, because I do have a job that's
So
not.
let me tell you how you do the math. Like, so I'm gonna go at the math. So you're flipping a property, okay? So check this out. This is what you need when you're flipping a property. You need the ARV, the after repair value, just for numbers, right? I'm gonna say that when you fix this property, it's gonna cost 100 grand. So what you wanna do is, let's say the condo, what he did was that he searched, what of those condos are selling there when they are fully renovated? Let's say that they sell for 100,000, all right? So my after repair value is 100,000.
215 was my.
I'm just using 100 to use numbers, right? To use
I don't know,
round numbers.
Simple math.
Trying to give you a real.
So do simple math,
Yeah.
the math is gonna be the same wherever
I got
we go. So it's gonna be 100,000, all right? So let's say how much you spend on yours, 20, let's use numbers.
All right.
You're gonna bring a contractor, it's gonna tell you, I'm gonna do that job for $20,000, all right? The average profit that flippers are looking at is from 15% to 30%, 30% being the max. I know my average, my minimum is 22%, all right? So we're gonna say we wanna make, let's say 20% out of this. So I want my profit to be 20K, right? So this is your math. You're gonna say, all right, so I can sell this property for 100,000, right? I'm gonna subtract 20K of rehab, right? And I'm gonna subtract 20K of my profit. And that's gonna give you the purchase price, right?
60K.
All right? What's the number?
60K.
$60, 66. So this 60.
What are you waiting for?
This is what you need to buy it to make, so it could be a
She's
deal.
gonna flip it.
If you're gonna flip.
If you're gonna hold it and
Now,
rent it.
If you're gonna hold it, it's totally different. This is a flip. We're going with his, right? This is a flip. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna start an offer at 40,000. So they can cry to 70, and then you cry to 50, and then they cry to 60, and then you say, we call it a deal. And that's the math of a flip. And that's how you know if you should get in there or not. Now, what you need to take in consideration, if you're doing a hard money lender, what is gonna be an interest rate? Are you using a home equity line? What is gonna be an interest rate? So the soft cost is what people don't pay attention to, because that's an easy math.
Yeah.
But you gotta think about holding costs. You're gonna be paying a loan, you're gonna be paying electricity, gas, taxes, the mortgage, the note on that flip that you're doing. So all of that goes in consideration of how much you're gonna be spending, so that eats your profit. If you say that I'll do this in 2 months, but then in reality it takes you 4, probably you're at a deficit already. So you have to, the most important part is understanding the after repair value and those repairs. How much you're gonna cost and the timing, how much you're gonna take to flip. So that is a good way for you to do like a quick evaluation.
Also, in the
Yeah,
MREI,
that's-
a lot of these formulas are in there. And when our region is bringing the MREI series, like we have the MREA series, they have broken it down and chunked it down into 3 times a week. The MREI series, we had Jean Rivers, who taught 2-3 weeks ago. That was an amazing, amazing class. If you can jump on to see Jean Rivers again virtually for the MREI series the whole day, there's a lot of this formula in there based on, you have to know rental value, especially if you're gonna hold it. So let's talk about rental value. One thing that I wanna talk about is, currently in North Andover, there is a company, Berry Farms. And Berry Farms has a lot of flip, repeat business and, 3 months only because there's nowhere to go. You're not seeing single families on the market for rentals right now. People were just selling them. And so these bigger families with dogs and things like that really don't have places to go. So the Slate and the Berry Farms and things like that are full. It's so saturated and so full that for a 3-bedroom, is $2,800. To have a parking spot is $100 if it's covered. It's $100 for the dog if that family has a dog, and they're raising it by $400 per month starting July 1st. So not only do I wish I owned that, but where would I be targeting right now? 100% I would be targeting in terms of marketing and things like that, and education, because those people that now just went up to 400 will either be A, forced out, or B, by survival instincts, have to cut costs in their family to be able to survive the rental industry. So is it a great time to have rental properties? Now it is. During COVID, was it?
Yeah.
So it still was, but some people didn't want that industry because a lot of bills weren't being paid depending on the people that could afford it and the forgiveness, and nobody was pushing them out. So now we're out of that and we're back to this model. So could you raise, like David's was like 1,700, but he did the research and looked and said, if it was all done, what would a rental that was freshly painted, functionality, things like that, what would the height go for? And like Jeffrey said, in the MREI, there are formulas for that for you to run now. Like David said, run this, invest in your business about passive income and investments in property, even if you don't have $1 to do it today. Because when you have the dollar, you want to have the education to be able to go ahead. And as you just heard, Kate, a lot of people will say, I have the money, but I don't know how to. And then a lot of the people that don't have the money say what? I know how to, but I don't have the money.
Or like, I'm both, I'm the person who says, I'm ready, and then I go, oh God, I'm terrified of that. Like having to put like 4 things in at $14,000, like that would financially ruin my
Yeah,
family.
like they were like, you got
Then you go, okay, well, that's.
Then you call one of the people up here.
I know, I think about buying a 2-family every year in April. I live right in
Yep,
Georgetown.
yep.
I worked for 2 years straight and I can't get myself to do it.
So now let's talk about that. We're all in real estate.
yeah.
And you're in real estate. It doesn't matter if you're directly working in it or on it. You're an admin, TC, I don't care. You have the resources here. If you really wanted something, what do you do when you really want something?
Time block for it.
Usually
You time block, but what, for what? What activities would you be doing?
Searching, you gotta.
You would be
time to
searching,
look.
you would be going to open houses, you'd be walking neighborhoods, you would be knocking on doors, you would be doing something that I'm sure that
I think
both, all
like
3 of them have
Jeffrey
done.
said, you being in the business is like front row seats to potential opportunities, like the house we're getting now in Medford, we're getting for just under $1 million and it appraised like significantly above that. So that means we could sell it significantly above that. And I just think you obviously have to calculate it, but I always underestimate. That's my thing. Like, I don't care what it could sell for. I just put the number that it could be if all goes wrong, or it could rent if all goes wrong. And that way you really can't, like, it eliminates the risk potential, But as far as like waiting and when to get in, it's never the right time. It is work. It's always a shit show. You know
It's
what I
scary,
mean?
and it's scary
Somebody-
at first, it's very
Yeah.
scary, and then you do it, and then you're addicted, you can't wait to buy another property.
Somebody's always calling you, it's work, but I mean, I'm making more than some real estate agents making their commissions on my property, so.
So, go ahead. You-
I want to go back to what Jeffrey said, keeping your eyes open all the time.
Yeah.
I just, it might be the right situation, but if you're not looking for it, you're not gonna find it.
Yeah.
Right?
And about being ready, when you're looking, you're ready.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because
And none of you own a single family, you own an Airbnb that you
but none, no, you guys are all multifamily.
No,
multifamily.
yeah, my other two are also singles.
I'm looking for
Oh,
a
yeah.
single family in case you have one.
I got one coming on the market.
We're done.
Ah. But they're right though about opportunities. So if you think about it, and I will use a personal example, Deb Higgins, Art, put that house on the market in Winthrop. And, you know, buying in the city is very different than buying out here. I'm comfortable, and most of you are probably comfortable in your own area. To buy in the city and to do a conversion, a condo conversion, it is somewhat scary to the individual that doesn't have those contacts and does it daily. And she had this amazing property in Winthrop that I kick myself. I'm so upset that sitting with Art Durkin at dinner one night, we were talking about stuff and Shelley, and I was like, I want this property. Deb Higgins has this 2-family that could be converted to 2 condos, and it's right near the airport. It overlooks the water. And if you condoed it and what you could sell it for, plus Pilots and Massport, and all of them are always looking in that area. And because I was thinking about, I didn't do it. And don't you know, the people that bought it are definitely going down the path of condoizing and living and selling in it.
They have
And so
the
you're
analysis
right.
paralysis.
Yeah, but you have to, that opportunity shows up when you least expect it, so you have to have these classes and knowledge of the MREI and the numbers to be able to do so.
My 3-family, it was Xavier was actually looking for properties for his clients, and he bumped into it on a Saturday morning. We were here just having breakfast, and he's like, Jeffrey, come and take a look at this. I'm like, get your coat. We're gonna go, and they listed it at 9 a.m. and they hosted an open house at 12 p.m. So there was like no
Right.
time for people to go see it. And when we showed up, we were the only one there. And I checked the house, I evaluate 3 families all the time. I know what it's worth. Right when I saw it, and they were asking for 500, I came here, prepared one for 500 and met the agent. Like I went to him. I was like, here. And he was like, all right, let me go and talk to them. I waited outside of the house. They came with the offer accepted, and I left.
Nice.
Yeah, then you moved in.
I
you came
ran.
back an hour
I
later.
ran. I was like, there's no way you're gonna catch
Put
me.
it on the
So I have
market
2
for
more
800.
questions, 2 more
1
questions for
PM.
all the panelists, and then the last 10 minutes, we can open it up for anything
You didn't
else.
ask me how much I'm making.
Well, I'm getting back
Ask-
to you.
ask
So how much do you make a month in your passive income, Jeffrey?
15.
15 a month,
So
each
about-
month.
Each
So-
month, so about 180 a year,
Okay, so again, and how many do you have?
12
12. So, but that's 12 doors. That's
doors.
how many units?
That's 12 units. That's 4
Right.
units, 12 doors.
Right. So to go back to what you would do differently, or a piece of advice that you would give someone that's thinking about it, like everybody in this room and anybody on Zoom, what would be the best 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you would give that you wish that you would have known, that you've learned, that you could pass on to us? And while they're thinking about that, if there's any questions that all of you might have, then once we're finished these, just allow yourselves time to ask them.
I would say buy more properties, just buy more, just do whatever you have to do to buy
The
more.
question is if you haven't purchased, you're starting from 0 now.
Okay, well then in that case, I would
She's like,
say-
don't have analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
I should have owned a 2-family in Winthrop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but also like I have some young clients who, part of the couple, a family, where he really wanted to be a real estate investor and they had helped him buy a single family and he just kept really wanting to do it. So they made the commitment, they sold their single family, they bought a 3-family, they're living in it. So the house hacking, just if you're really in that position, if you're young or if you're not young, I say sell your single family or just buy one and live in it. And that's a great way to get started because then you don't have to have 25% down.
Correct.
I mean, I'm not like these guys. I'm not like high roller, tons of real estate, but if you're just like a regular person that's kind of afraid to do it, that's an easy way, I think, to get in.
Mhm. David?
I
Piece of
think
advice.
like always save your money and always look at houses. And when it's time, like you gotta know that it's time, because if you think it's a good deal, sooner or later, somebody's gonna know that it's a good deal as well.
Can I just have you tell me when it's a good deal?
Yeah.
So, before we-
Yeah, cause that, yeah.
I want to get to Jeffrey, but that is another resource that we could talk about, that you have 180 agents here and in Newburyport, Topsfield, and that is 200 over there. And so when you're looking for something, I've put it out there before, put an email out to our agents, because they don't know about you and your business until you have showed up and explained what you're looking for. And so you have to raise your hand for people to be like, oh, wait, you're looking, I'll keep my eyes open, no problem. Jeffrey, piece of advice.
I would say you need to learn that when you're buying property, like, let's say the way that I started, it was taking advantage of that first-time home buyer, small down payment. And the math works totally different when you're doing an investment. The 3-family that I bought for 500, as was 25% down, that one could be evaluated as an actual investment because it was a big down payment and it took the math that it actually goes on an investment. But when you're buying, let's say on an FHA, you're buying it with such a low down payment that what you're putting into it, all the numbers are gonna work because you're not coming in with much money. So those first few ones, take advantage of being a first-time home buyer and buy, let's say, do a ladder, do 4, 3, 1, because you will be able to leverage your money. If you don't have a lot of money, cash, like, you know, you just do this, this is your hobby, right?
That side hustle that
That
David was
side
talking
hustle, you
about
know?
before.
Leverage your money so you can stretch it and be able to buy more properties with the money that you have, because if you just start buying, you know, 20% down, you're gonna come to the point that you're gonna have to start raising capital, bring in investors. And if you can start at least the first few that you're the sole owner and all the money that is being made from those properties are completely yours, you will be able to grow a little bit more cash to invest in more properties faster than just jumping on a big deal first.
This is what Robert Kawasaki talks about. He's like,
Kiyosaki.
why are we sitting on money and you have a lot of
He
equity?
made it into a motorcycle.
I did. Why are you sitting on the money when you should just roll that money into it? And
Other
so,
people's money, right?
other
OPM.
people's, yeah. other
OPM.
people's.
Yeah.
All right, any questions from anybody here before we finish?
I have one. I know you mentioned you do Airbnb. I was curious what the turnover is on that property. And if you find it.
Turnover as far as how long people stay.
Yeah, is it a weekend, a week? I'm just curious.
I will do, it's a minimum of 4 nights.
Mhm.
It's Salisbury Beach. I could do weekly. The reason I don't is that I don't want a turnover every Saturday necessarily. I kind of like when I have just a 5-night, it's almost as much money, but it gives me little days here and there to do things I want to do in there. And also I sort of use it as almost like a she shed. So I'll go over there for the day and I'll do a project, but so I try to enjoy it a little bit too, because I think that's the thing with an Airbnb, you know, we can. So I'll spend a night or two once in a while. So I'll do 4 nights. And then in the winter, I get someone in there from October 1st to like May 1st. And then during that period, that's pretty much, I'm not really making money. It's paying for itself. And then I make all the money in the summer.
I would also be careful when you're thinking about Airbnbs and know your towns. Know your towns.
you have to
So
be
my friend Jarvid bought a beautiful property next to the Beauport in Gloucester for $1 million. Gutted it, put a lot of money into it. It's so beautiful, partnered up with the Beauport with the overflow of weddings. There's a wedding suite that he has made as a full deck up top. It will always be rented. However, Gloucester has a rule where you can't do Airbnbs in short term. It has to be 2-week at minimum.
Yeah.
Which threw a little bit of a monkey wrench, but not too much because his 2-week minimum is already booked. And so that paid itself, even with the return on investment, even if he can't find anybody during those months of the colder months, or if he could for a longer term rental. So just look in your area if you're thinking about that Airbnb process. Any other questions? Okay, yeah.
One other question, so why is it important, I just think it's important for us to understand that it's not necessarily, I gotta have 10,000 a month that I'm netting from every door that I have. How important is it to have even just a small return on investment, even just hundreds of dollars a month to have that asset now accumulating value and worth?
That's a good question, because that's what it was killing me before I started. like understanding which metrics to use, like how much should I be making in order for this to be an actual good investment. And that was always like in my head for like buy and hold. So what I did was that I contacted local investors that own many units. And I started asking what metrics are they focusing on locally, because the real estate is local. You know, what we do here is not the same thing as Boston. Everybody loves Boston. I'd rather invest in Lawrence because the margins of profit are better in Lawrence than in Boston. And there's people that invest more when it comes to appreciation. In Boston, you're gonna have a better appreciation than in Lawrence. You know, properties are gonna appreciate more out there. In Lawrence, you're gonna have more cash flow. So what are you investing for? You're investing for cash flow, you're investing for
That's a good point.
appreciation. So you have to understand what is your purpose. For me, my purpose is I want appreciation, but at the same time, I want cash flow. So I decided to focus on the Merrimack Valley because I see a better margin when it comes to cash flow. And the margin around here, I noticed that, for example, units, last year that investors were paying about 130 to 150 per unit in the Merrimack Valley. They were hoping for a cap rate of 7%, and they were hoping to get a minimum of $400 clean per door. Those were the numbers that I actually was able to come up with, and that's what I'm using as metrics. But when you read in books, they're gonna give you so many numbers that might not work in your market. That's why you need to grab like a local investor that is successful in the market, and not just listen to one. You have to, you know, talk to a few and then come up with your own idea of what is safe for you, because some people are like very anal. They're like, no, if it's not 9% cap rate, I'm not gonna take it, or this and that and the third. But again, let's say if I find something that it was a 7% cap rate or 6% cap rate, but it's below market rent, and I know that I'm gonna go in and buy it, I'm paying for what I'm buying, not what I'm gonna make. But I'm gonna raise those rents, and now it's gonna become a 9% cap rate, which that's the value add. And that's the investor side, because just buying something, anybody could buy something if you have the money. The investor is the person that IDs the opportunity. I can raise those rents, I can buy it below, and then it will appreciate for this much, then I can refinance it, and I can take my money out, go buy another one. That is the investor. The investor is not buying. It's actually like a quarterback, you know, seeing the game, and when you're gonna throw the ball, it's gonna be to that corner, and it's knowing, having the trust, you're gonna throw it to that corner.
Can you take us, for the audience, particularly at home, that might not know what cap rate is, can you explain that?
Capitalization rate is a metric that most investors are using, you know, and the cap rate is basically net operating income divided by what you're paying for the property. And normally they want to see that it's a 7% and above. But again, if I'm saying this, but if you go by, let's say like a commercial plaza, like 114 Plaza, a good cap rate on that one would be like 5.5. And if an investor comes and see, oh, it's not an 8, they're not going to buy it. But in reality, a 5.5 on a property like that is worth it. So you need to know what you're evaluating and what are the metrics for that specific type of real estate.
And I think a great class or seminar to follow this, other than the MREI that will be coming through our region, would be another hour of maybe doing an example, a live example of a 4-family, and looking at it on MLS and doing an APOD and understanding cap and what you think the operating expenses are, and doing like a live mock would be
I
something.
prepare
that
my
would be
Excel
really
sheet that I
great.
can share, like
Perfect.
how I plug in my numbers and the metrics that I use.
Excellent. Okay, so I just want to say thank you to everybody on Zoom that will be watching this. And I just want to stop everybody on this. So thank you. And I obviously want to thank you all for your time out of your business, and the panelists for answering our questions and things like that. So thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.